You know, unfortunately, we live in a time right now where you have to question a lot of the creators of art, poetry, music, movies, books, all that kind of stuff. People that you once loved may let you down with the choices that they make and the people that they hurt. But does that mean that the art that they created that impacted you and touched you is no longer valid? It's a really difficult question, and each person has to process that question on their own, and it may be a case by case basis for whether they continue to like that artist or not. It's definitely a question I think we're asking more now than we've ever asked in the history of time. Today I'm going to talk about a poet and a singer and a songwriter who has greatly influenced me and made my life better, but is one of those people that's maybe a little bit questionable, and maybe not a little bit questionable, but for some of the choices that they've made in their life and the people that they've hurt. So I want to talk to you about the poetry of musician, singer, songwriter Ryan Adams. So Ryan Adams has two books of poetry, and I'm going to talk about both books together. The first book that I want to talk to you about is a book called Infinity Blues. Now, a lot of people believe that these two books are essentially looking at a part of his life from two opposite sides. If you know anything about Ryan Adams, you know that aside from being the phenomenal singer-songwriter for the band Whiskeytown, and then his own solo artist and artist of the group Ryan Adams and the Cardinals, he has been a producer. He has been a producer for music. He's been a songwriter for people like Willie Nelson. But he's also wrestled a lot with drugs. And this book, a lot of people believe, is poetry that he wrote that deals a lot with his turmoil and the conflict and the challenge of addiction. This is a dark and gritty book filled with sadness, filled with hurt and pain, filled with fear. But it's also beautiful. There are poems in here that look at the sort of manic side of addiction and also the depressive side of addiction. And you can feel the loss and the loneliness and the pain that Ryan feels in this book. And that desperation for something that's different than the addiction that he's wrestling with. And then there's the other book. And I have to say, one thing that always bothers me, and I know this is a small thing, but this is a book lover's thing, is I hate when we have books that don't match in size. You know, if we're going to have two books that kind of touch on the same issue, I wish that they would be the same size. But the second book is called Hello Sunshine, and this is a much more positive, happy, cheerful book. It doesn't mean that there's no sadness at all, but this is definitely, it literally, the back says, Hello Sunshine is a graceful, sensual assertion of the other side of the emotional coin. So it's definitely on the positive side. Now, I will say that both of these books are not the kind of poetry that I would typically read in my high school English class. They are for mature readers. There's certainly lots of language, lots of mature content, but they are powerful poetry, and poetry is very impactful. And there are poems in here that I might pull and use, but I highly recommend Ryan Adams' poetry books, Infinity Blues and Hello Sunshine. Pick it up.